y'all, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jordan if you're new here, and you should subscribe and follow me on my various socials if you'd like to see more AI, machine learning, ADHD, and mental health related content. This was originally supposed to be a holiday season video where I could show you the various things that help me wrangle my mind as a bit of a part 2 to my last video on how I self-study technical topics. However, as I made the list of things that help me manage my brain and help me stay on track, I realized that not all of them are things that you can actually buy. So I decided to make this video anyway and showcase the products / habits that help me keep myself on track and help me manage and rein in my mind on a day-to-day basis so that I can manage to pursue both a PhD and be a YouTuber. If there are products or routines or habits that have helped you stay on track and manage your time, I'd love to hear about them in the comments so we can all learn from each other. And if you have not subscribed, you can subscribe and like this video down below. So without further ado, let's get into it. The first thing is something that is actually right next to me that you can see just out of shot, I guess, and that you used to be able to see in shot, which is my standing desk and the chair that I sit in on a day-to-day basis. So I actually just got a new desk and a new chair. I used to have the autonomous Smart Desk Core, I believe it's called, and I switched over to the fully standing desk, largely because I wanted something that was actually the same width as what I already had, but a little bit narrower, and then I also wanted something that has wheels on it. And so that's been really helpful for a lot of reasons, partially because it means that when I'm filming videos, I can move the desk around as I need to, and also if I just need to move the desk around for some reason, I can do that really easily. And it's also been helpful because the chair that I used to have actually had both a footrest and a headrest, and the chair was just a little bit too high for me, so it ended up being kind of uncomfortable all day, whereas this one, which I discovered, I believe, in my agency's office when I happened to be in New York a couple weeks ago, is just much better for day-to-day work. Along the lines of having a standing desk, if you have ADHD or like generally fidgety, I highly recommend getting a balance board. So this is from Fully. It's the Fully float deck, and essentially it's a balance board that you can stand on if the standing desk is elevated to its standing height. I find that that works better for me than something like an anti-fatigue mat that normally comes with standing desks do, because it lets me kind of fidget and move around. If I'm listening to music, it lets me kind of dance while I work, and it still lets me get work done fairly easily. Plus, I don't know, I guess it improves your core strength. I have a partially herniated disc in my lower back, so I'm always looking for things that help me with my core strength, and it's been great for just making me feel a little bit more active and helping me occupy that part of my mind that is fidgety so that I can stay on track with my actual work. So the next thing that helps me get work done in my home office is actually over here, and it is a portable space heater. I was actually just talking to Dr. Mike about this, and I don't know if it's just me, but I tend to run cold. I tend to be cold year-round, and so having a space heater that keeps it a comfortable temperature for me, which would probably be way too hot for anyone else, in my office makes it a lot easier to stay on track when I'm working and not get distracted because my hands or my feet are too cold. So the next thing that helps me is something that helps essentially occupy the 20 to 40% of my brain that I find is often kind of spinning its wheels, which I think is an ADHD thing when I'm trying to get work done. And that is a combination of two things. So the first thing is podcasts. I listen to a lot of podcasts while I work. I like the fact that they are usually about an hour to an hour and a half long, which makes it so that if I happen to stop paying attention, it's usually not a big deal. I haven't missed very much, but also makes it so that unlike audiobooks, if I stop paying attention, I haven't missed important parts of the plot that I will now have to go back to and listen to. Along with that, extraneous noise can get very distracting for me, and so using noise-canceling headphones helped me a lot when I was working full-time in the lab, and continues to help me now as I work half from home, half in the lab, when there's people chatting in the lab and also just extraneous random noise in my apartment. Alright, So these are the Bose QC45s. They're the new version of the Bose noise cancelling headphones. I used to have the Bose Quiet Comfort 2s, which also were really nice. These are just lighter, which if you're wearing them all day could make a difference because the weight is just noticeably less annoying. And these, in combination with listening to podcasts all day, or even people have asked me on my Instagram, doesn't damage your hearing or isn't it annoying to listen to something all day? A lot of the times you see me wearing these either in videos or on other socials, I'm not actually listening to anything. It's just helpful to have something that blocks out the outside noise. So these are great. You can also check out earlier versions of this if you're not looking for something that's, I don't know, $300 or $400. These are kind of expensive. All right, next thing on the list is actually the notebook that I'm currently reading off of for this video. This is a notebook from Ink and Vault, which is a stationery company that I think I discovered on Instagram. Whatever company you want to buy notebooks from works for you. I'm not necessarily interested in promoting a particular brand. I just find that I like both the style of their notebooks and the weight of their notebooks in terms of the paper. I find that I don't know what paper they use, but it's very smooth to write on, and there's something about the sensory experience of writing on this kind of paper that I enjoy over other types of paper. But these notebooks are super helpful for me in terms of day-to-day keeping track of habits. I actually, if you follow me on Instagram, started doing habit tracking in here, as well as keeping track of my master to-do list, which I keep track of on paper as opposed to in a digital form. I used to use more digital tools for stuff like this, and I find that it becomes an infinite to-do list, and it's helpful to have something that constrains me from writing down an infinite list of tasks that I have to do, which only stresses me out further. Along that line, you may have noticed, in fact, you may have noticed in the audio when I accidentally hit it on things, I have an Oura Ring. This is a sleep tracker, fitness tracker. I primarily use it for sleep. And I found it to be very helpful in terms of getting a sense of what makes it so that I have a really good night of sleep and what makes it so that I don't necessarily have a good night of sleep. For me, I found that things like journaling mean that I tend to have a better night of sleep. Things like taking melatonin tend to mean that I have a better night of sleep. Things like having any form of alcohol mean that I tend to have a worse night of sleep. And it's helpful to be able to kind of track these different variables. And of course, this is an AI and machine learning channel, so at the end of the day, I'm very interested in tracking the data behind my different health habits, and so I find that the Oura Ring is super helpful for getting a sense of what habits I can reinforce and what habits I should try to stay away from in terms of getting good sleep at night. So in terms of day-to-day task management, I mentioned earlier in this video that I don't tend to use digital to-do lists anymore because I find that they turn into these infinite to-do lists that never actually get done and stress me out more than anything else. And so what I've actually recently switched over to is this system, which lets me essentially have this little wooden holder that holds my to-do list card for the day, as well as cards for either things that I have up next on my to-do list, as well as future today cards that I happen to be working on. These are actually totally full. I don't remember how many come in a pack, but today I ran out of cards, so I have to refill this case. But this has been super helpful for me in terms of keeping the things on my to-do list within eyesight, because the issue that I tend to run into with digital to-do lists is that as soon as I close out the app or I put my phone away, out of sight, out of mind, object permanence goes out the window. I have no recollection of the things that I'm supposed to do. And so having something that's on my desk that I can see but that isn't intrusive is really helpful for me to stay on track. All right, 2 more things on the list. One of them is, there's been a lot of things in this video that have been things that are expensive and that you definitely don't necessarily need in order to be productive, be someone with a good work-life balance. I don't really like the word productive. I'm actually going to do a video on some of the books that I read this year that addresses why I don't love that word, but I have one thing that has been very helpful in making sure that I feel good on a day-to-day basis throughout the day, and that is essentially the concept of exercise. I have a Peloton, which you may have seen in my video on creating an app that can monitor my squat form. I also just go outside at least once a day, which I find really helpful to refresh my mind, help me generate new ideas, and keep me kind of on track on a day-to-day basis. But I really cannot recommend enough in order to A, from an ADHD perspective, just like burn off that extra energy if you have it, but B, to help you, do something that isn't going to keep your mind spinning all the time. So for me, I have inattentive ADHD. I don't have hyperactive ADHD, so I'm not necessarily a super fidgety person, but I am someone whose brain is constantly on overdrive. And exercise helps me kind of burn off a lot of that mental energy. So does going on walks, so does going outside, so does changing locations in the middle of the day. I used to be someone who would go into the lab office to work in the morning, and then I would switch locations 3 to 4 times throughout the entire day because that just helped me work. So I'd highly recommend getting outside, getting some exercise, getting moving a little bit. I find that it really helps me, especially if I'm in a bit of a rut, if I can't get my brain to work, which happens probably 4 to 5 times a day. It's really helpful to be able to do that if you can. Obviously, you don't actually need to buy something like a Peloton in order to do that. That's something that I've found is just easy for me in terms of something that I can do that is already in my house that I do not have to worry about going anywhere for. Another thing that I found to be really helpful is actually my Apple Watch. I have an Apple Watch now 7 with cellular, which means that I can go for walks or runs or whatever without my phone, which means that I'm not checking my email and my notifications constantly, which is definitely something that I do entirely too much and that both my therapist and my life coach tell me that I should do less of. And I found this to be really helpful in terms of just like disconnecting and finding ways to reduce stress overall. So these are things that have helped me get through my PhD. They're things that help me be a PhD student and also be a YouTuber. They're things that you can order from your loved ones for Christmas or experiences that I guess you can give them because a lot of things that I mentioned here are not actually products you can buy. But if you're like me and you also haven't ordered gifts for the holidays yet, one gift that will definitely arrive on time is a year of STEM learning on Brilliant, who are kindly sponsoring today's video. If you've heard me talk about Brilliant before, then you know it's a website and app built off the principle of active problem solving. And whether it's an inquisitive niece, an all-knowing parent, or the neighbor who seems to have everything, I know your curious loved ones of all ages will be excited to grow with Brilliant's interactive learning approach. In fact, Brilliant recently updated a bunch of their courses to be more interactive, which I really appreciate as someone who learns better using visual and physical intuition than through rote memorization. For example, their brand new logic course is packed with opportunities for hands-on problem solving, and exercises like this one will help you open up your mind and will help you look at problems in a completely new way. Brilliant makes an awesome gift for any of the ambitious learners in your life. So hurry the first 200 of you to go to the link down below. We'll get 20% off Brilliant's annual premium subscription for you or for someone else. If you want more strategies to help you stay on track with long-term projects, you can check out my video on how I self-teach myself technical topics with ADHD. You can also follow me on all my various socials, and otherwise I will see you next week. Bye.